Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am Christy Mahan of Escape Artist Holidays, Dream Vacations, a full-service travel agency, and I am excited to be with you tonight for another one of our weekly destination webinars. Every week, we take a trip somewhere different in the world to help us stay inspired and eager to travel again. This week, we're going somewhere a little unusual, and I'm very excited to say we're going on an expedition to Antarctica. And the only company I would trust to take us on such a voyage is Hurtigruten. And tonight, I am joined by Kelly Mills, who is going to be speaking to us at length about what makes Hurtigruten such a very unique way to see this very special part of the world. It takes a set of really wonderful things to happen to make such a trip really magnificent. Not every cruise line that says they go to Antarctica really truly goes there, and Hurtigruten truly does. So we're going to take a fantastic adventure tonight. I want you to stick around till the end, where we'll talk about some other information about working with travel agents and about tonight's booking incentive. Right now, I'd like to ask Kelly to go ahead and share her screen and let all of you know you can enter your comments in the chat box, and I will ask them on your behalf. And I'll also let you know that we are, of course, recording this along with all of our other previous and future events, where you can also see them up on our YouTube channel and share them with your friends. So without any further ado for me, again, I want to thank Kelly for being here and let her take it away.
Thank you. So thank you all for listening. It's always one of my favorite topics to talk about. So Antarctica is, when I tell you this, it really is the coldest, windiest, highest, driest continent on Earth. You are basically there to experience all of the elements that are there. It is an unbelievable trip. And of course, these little guys on my screen make it a little bit easier and more fun when you have such adorable birds that are going to be hobbling around nearby while you're seeing this gorgeous continent. So what you're looking at is one of the ships that go with us is the Roald Amundsen, and this is in Antarctica, taken from a Zodiac, and it just shows you that the colors and the ice, the pictures really don't do it any justice. You would never even imagine how gorgeous it is until you're there. So when you are there, you're going to be looking at why going to Antarctica. So why Antarctica? You're looking at an authentic place to be. You're looking at having that immersive experience, but you're also looking at small groups, remote destination, off the beaten path, knowing that expedition is really a mindset over a physical set. So I'll go into that in a little bit. So flexible scheduling and education and learning about the destination that you're at. And of course, the wildlife is unbelievable. And for some of us, I imagine it would be our seventh continent. So if you've been to the other six and you're ready to go to number seven, this is one of the safest and really most amazing place to see it. So I'm not going to go through every single itinerary. I will just give you a basic idea of what an itinerary is like. And then, of course, Christy can go through all the different options for you with itinerary planning and picking which destination is right for you. We are the largest operator there. And when I say largest, I don't mean in size of ship. I mean in most opportunities and amount of sailings that we do. So we do have 3 ships there, offering 9 or 10 different varieties of itinerary. So if you wanted to do one or the other, this is just one of them. It's our mid-length itinerary. And as you can see, you will see different areas, but it always says a little bit vague in the center. So you'll look at day 1, day 2, day 3, and then you see how it says day 6 to 11, just Antarctica, because there's so many different landing site possibilities and there's so many different weather conditions and different things that can be happening, that instead of being on Deception Island on day 7 from 10 to 5, we can't tell you that, but you might be there day 6 and you might be somewhere else day 7. And so we know that flexibility happens, and you never know. There could be a pod of whales coming and you might be going that way to see the whales since it's a once in a lifetime itinerary instead of where you thought you were going to be. So, and I'll explain a little bit about how the expedition team works and how we make those decisions. But to learn a little bit about Antarctica itself. So IATOB was formed years ago in 1959, and it's basically 100 different nationalities that are the governing bodies of Antarctica. Antarctica is not owned and not inhabited. which means that we are trying to continue to keep it as the only uninhabited, untouched place on Earth. So with this comes rules. So the IATO organization, of which all the operators that go have to be a member of, we are included. However, one of our expedition leaders is on the board for IATO, and he does often talk a little bit about what the different meetings are and what happens. But one of the things that are rules and regulations on Antarctica, just for your knowledge, is when it comes to the regulations of the vessels, there are 3 categories. A category 3 vessel in Antarctica is 500 and more guests. That means you cannot make landfall on Antarctica itself. So if you are looking at a cruise that has more than 500 people, they are going to sail through it, but they won't be able to land on the continent. They'll take you to another area, usually the Falkland Islands, which is part of the UK, to have a penguin experience, but they're unable, unfortunately, to land on the continent itself. So if you are taking one of those and you wanted to walk on the continent, you won't get that wish. Category 2, which is 200 to 500 guests. They can land on Antarctica with a proper rotation of 100 guests per landing at a time. And how they do this is you will have 100 people on land, you'll have 100 people who are out ice cruising, you'll have 100 people getting ready to land, you'll have 100 people in the lecture hall getting ready, and it rotates around. So everyone gets a chance to land every single day, but there's up to 25 different landing sites you can choose from as to where you're going to go. Category 1, which is 200 passengers or fewer, are able to choose from more 25 landings, and that includes South Georgia, which is an island off of Antarctica that is considered part of Antarctica. That section of area, you cannot have more than 200 passengers to land, and this is where there are penguin colonies in the millions that are only found on South Georgia. So if you have somebody that wants to see a king penguin and they're traveling with you, you would only find those on South Georgia, and you would have to take our smaller ship, which is the Fram, that goes to South Georgia. So you look at the different itineraries based on how those ships run. With that, there's also rules about getting on and getting off the ship. So the biosecurity rules when you're traveling to Antarctica are significantly stricter than anywhere else on Earth, with IATO telling us that we cannot bring any outside organisms or outside germs or outside crumbs or anything into the continent, which means that when you're getting ready to land, it can take about 40 minutes to get ready to land. And everyone says, oh, that's too long. Why does it take so long? You have to vacuum all of the outer layers of your clothing prior to putting them on. You have to disinfect your feet and your shoes and your outer layers of clothing before going ashore. You will be blown off and wash your boots. You actually go through what we call our boot car wash, which is you go through the boot wash to make sure there's nothing on there that can get anywhere near Antarctica. And when you come back from Antarctica, you will also do that. You are not allowed to take anything away from Antarctica that's there. So we cannot bring any penguins home, although we would love to. And that's one of the main rules. You cannot bring anything onto the continent that doesn't belong there as well. You have to stay a safe distance from wildlife. And what does that mean? It means we cannot approach them. However, as you can see, the wildlife doesn't follow the same rules. So if they approach us, we will just calmly allow them to come over. There are no land predators in Antarctica. So penguins and seals are not afraid of you. They are just very curious as to what you're doing and why you're there. They're also very curious about the equipment. So as you can see, one of the baby seals decided to take a nap in one of our boot washing stations.
That's so fun.
They will jump up, right? They will jump up onto the Zodiacs to say hi. And the bottom picture, if you look closely, that little penguin is actually trying to pull the guest's jacket off. So you cannot, and like I said, you can't actually go and chase the penguin down. You can't follow them. And also the wildlife always has the right of way, which means that if they're crossing, we stop because they are more important than us. This is their home and we are their guests. But they are very inquisitive and they are very funny. And even the whales will come up to the Zodiacs and they will not, they don't harm anyone, but they do want to see everything that's happening. So when you're looking at what the experience will be, you easily can have some of these experiences but with the guidelines strictly followed, we just can't go after them. The expedition team will go ahead of our crew and our teams, and they will make sure everywhere is safe on the sections that you're going to. And depending on when you go, it's extremely important. So one of the things that we learn is the Antarctica season is October to March. This is a summer season in Antarctica, typically where you would see like Australia's summers are winter, their summer is the same time frame because they're in the South Pole. However, there are 3 distinctive seasons within that season. And depending on when you go, it will change what you see. So when you're judging when to go to Antarctica, it's really not a matter of price or timing. It's a matter of the experience that you want to have, because it's going to be very similarly priced all through. There's no cheaper or better time. There's no better time to cross the Drake Passage. You could get the Drake Lake or what we call the Drake Shake either way, because it is the, the most interesting crossing on Earth. And it doesn't matter what time of year, it doesn't make it better or worse for you. So when you're looking, you really want to judge with what you want to see. So October to November is the beginning of the season. This is when you have lots of sea ice, lots of fresh snow. Your Adelie, your Chinstrap, your Gentoos, they're coming ashore, they're courting, they're nesting, they're laying their eggs. The elephant seals are courting, and they make some very interesting loud noises. And the king penguins are laying their eggs in South Georgia as well. This is the time of year that most of our landscape photographers will be most interested in getting those pristine white ice shots. They're also the time of year when you are most prevalent to do the snowshoeing, to do the overnight camping, because overnight camping can only be done when it is hard packed snow covered. And at the end of the year, that could be melted. So there's a possibility that the overnight camping may not be available towards the end of the season. So if you're interested in that pristine white snow, because the penguins haven't really made their mark on the snow yet, that is when you're going to be going to pick that season. December to January is your high summer season. They are the warmest months and the longest days, which also means that if you are having so much sunlight, you might not get the extreme scenery with the sunsets that you do get in the beginning of the season, because you tend to get the more fiery colors. But in this time, the sea ice is starting to recede off the shore. The penguin hicks are they're hatching, which means that they're going to be really small and really like fumbling around, as you can see from the babies on your screen. And the whale sightings are increasing because the whales have come in now and they are fully active. So this is the time of year where you're going to be getting the most of a mix. So you will have more pristine white than you will in the beginning. You will have a lot more wildlife activity going on, but it's a nice mixture of the two. And then we are going to come to the end of the season, which is February and March. This is when the sea ice has receded the most, and it's the only time of year you can hope to cross the Antarctic Circle. So if you are looking to go south of the Antarctic Circle, it's the only time that everybody is able to break through the ice far enough to get you south. So if that's something that's super important to you, because you've crossed the Arctic Circle in the north and you want to cross it in the south, you want to go in February and March. The penguin parents are leaving to feed while the babies are now growing. And the penguin chicks are molting and they're growing their waterproof feathers. So they kind of look like little messes with the little pouches of fur and little pouches of regular feather seed. They're really cute.
Not quite a hot mess because it's too cold for that.
Yeah, well, maybe not for the penguins because they're there when it's really cold. But
True.
Peak whale sighting time is now, and the fur seals are more common to be there. So these are some of the different wildlife that you're going to be experiencing. However, with the sea ice receding, some of the places that we pull up to in November where it's pristine snow, it's now melted. So there will be days that the snowshoeing won't be able to happen because when you pull up, it might be rock where it would have been snow. So you may end up in a situation where you are getting a little more of the wildlife, but you are getting less opportunity to camp and to do the snowshoeing. So if you're looking for a mix of both, usually you're looking in the December, January time. But if you want to be guaranteed to be able to do those snow activities, you want to go in the beginning of the season and of course in the end of the season. And here's what they look like when they're molting. So this is what the penguins will look like when they're starting to molt the fur and growing into their waterproof feathers. So they look a little bit like they're wearing, hats and crazy hairstyles, and they are quite cute to see during that time frame as well.
What kind of whales are there seasonally? Are they all different ones? Orca?
There are different types. You can see humpbacks, you can see minke whales. So you're going to have quite a few different options. And we do participate in citizen science projects, which I'll go into, and including Happy Whale, which is a program where whales are identified by their tails. So if you get a picture of a whale tail and you bring it up to over to the expedition team, they will send it to Happy Whale, and Happy Whale will tell you the identification of that whale and who it is. And if it's never been identified before, you get to name it, and that whale will have your name that you gave them for the rest of its being time on Earth. So it's actually pretty cool. Some of these
That
things.
is very cool. I love whales.
Why go to Antarctica with us? So always a good question to ask. Well, what makes your Antarctica great? So we have been in business for 127 years. We started in 1893 up in Arctic Norway. By 1897, we were up in Svalbard, and then we continued on in all different polar waters. But that kind of expertise comes with experience. We have generations of ship captains in our company where, your ship captains, parents might have been ship captains, and parents might have been ship captains, and grandparents were ship captains. And so this experience is passed down in addition to being in the area where everybody is trained for polar sea captain. So you have extremely good quality, experienced people driving these ships. In addition to that, the sustainability factor of our company, we're the first to go single-use plastic free. We were the first to launch hybrid powered cruise ships, which you're looking at, to lower the emissions. We were the first to use biofuel. So if you look at some of the different things that we're doing, we opened our foundation in 2015. So we are working our hardest to make sure our sustainability and the footprint we're leaving is one we can be proud of. Their base camp at sea, as I call it, because you don't feel like you're on a typical cruise. This isn't your casinos and your, high-end shows and all that. You are going to have interactive education, fabulous food, really comfortable and casual, no formal nights on board. There's no butler service. You're going to be there in your gear or in comfortable warm clothes to expend being comfortable on deck, the same things you would be wearing to a lecture or to, relax and enjoy the time that you have. And everything we will try to include to make sure that you have everything you need for your adventure. The expedition team on board are your hosts. They are your guides. They are your educators. They are doing everything with you, from running the Expedition Explorer boats to giving the lectures to trade. They're trained in polar survival. They will teach you polar survival. But in addition to that, they're educated in their field. We have over 350 team members worldwide. You will have at least 12 to 15 of them on board with you, and they're going to be giving you all of your explanations. So if you're learning about the glaciers, it's a glaciologist teaching you that. A marine biologist is telling you about the mammals and wildlife, and an ornithologist will be up on deck with you, taking pictures of the flying birds and telling you what they are. History, they will always have an introductory photography lesson because there's always a photographer on board as well. So you're going to have a ton of different options and people there to help you. In addition to that, one of the things you don't want to do is pack all this stuff and lug it clear across the world. So we make sure we provide everything we can for you. So you have use of our hiking poles, use of our muck boots, so you do not need to bring them. These are high quality boots, and believe it or not, if you're walking in some of these wet areas, you do not want to risk it with the wrong footwear. So we provide you footwear to use while on board. In addition to that, you can see the water and wind resistant jacket. That was me when I was blonde 2 years ago in mine. And you can see that it is not a full parka. A lot of people mistake the idea of bringing a full parka and us handing those out. But as you know, that especially with the way things have been warming, the temperature can change. It could be 35 in the morning, up to 65 in the afternoon, back down to 40. And the key thing is layering. If you had a heavy duty parka, you would have to take the whole jacket off and you'd have no protection. So we do give you this line. It's a shell, basically. No wind or water will get in, and you will have your what to pack list for the layers that you should be using underneath. And we will always provide a what to pack list for you as well. Use of our hiking poles, our headlamps, our kayaking gear, whatever you need while you are on board, we will have for you. The only thing I will suggest is if you're planning to bring camera equipment, make sure you bring that from home. We will have some basic lenses and things that you will be able to get if something should break to buy on board, but it might be pricier to buy those things on board because you're paying, full MSRP for these products. So you would want to bring your equipment from home. However, the photographer will be there to help you learn how to use it if you buy it the day before and you're unsure. So we will always be there to help you out. For what you're having in your dining experience, you will be well fed. It is not a 24-hour pizzeria, but you will have breakfast, you will have lunch, you will have dinner. There's an early riser snack for those that want to do the mile around the ship or the yoga, or you're up at 5 and just need a snack. And there's also an afternoon treat. We do open deck barbecues when the weather permits. We do all different options for meals, and we are able to accommodate quite a few different types of diets. So if it's vegan, if it's you're allergic to specific things, whether it's nuts or shellfish or whatever it is, you just let your restaurant manager know when you get on board, and they will make sure you provide it for you. This is also included with your package is coffee, tea, and water all day, any time of day, and house wine, beer, soda, mineral water included in all of your meals at lunch and dinner. So we are not going to be asking you to spend money to have a glass of wine with your meal. In addition to that, we are a no gratuities expected cruise line, which means that you are not going to be expected to give a tip. There's no such thing as $12 per person per day is being added to your package. But should you choose that you want to leave something for the crew, you can. You just let your, the front desk person know that you wanted to leave something for the crew because they were fabulous, and they will let you do that on your card should you choose to. But it is not expected for the Norwegian way of life. It's not something that they're used to or something that they do. So it's just part of their experience. And then you have the Science Center and your engagement. These are live photos of the Science Center on the Amundsen in Nansen. I believe that's Bob up there on the microphone, on the microscope, and one of our expedition leaders giving a lecture. So kind of an explanation of what the halls look like. And there are in-depth lectures on all different topics. So it won't only be on Antarctica. It could be history, climate change, sustainability, wildlife, earth science. It could be culture or destination specific. It also could be included in there are your citizen science programs. So whether you are in the cloud observer and you're up on deck helping them observe clouds and taking notes, whether you are doing a seabird survey, whether it's happy whale, there are so many different ones, and we have whole presentations on those if you ever wanted to come back and listen to us again. And there also is your introductory photo lecture also included, and it's free Wi-Fi all over. Now, the Wi-Fi is free. However, we will be in some areas, you are in the end of the earth, that it might not work as well as it does in other places. So if you're planning on streaming 24 hours a day, I'm going to tell you it probably won't happen. But if you have WhatsApp on your phone and you want to communicate with people back home, you should be able to do that via text and, email and that kind of stuff. It did work much better than we thought when we got there, but you will have that opportunity where it might be a day or two where you are offline. And believe it or not, it's probably the most calming thing ever to experience when you don't have to worry about looking at your email because it's not coming. The science boat, here's a perfect example. Here they were studying Antarctic krill, and if you sign up for the science boat, which you would do in the beginning of your session, you'll be able to see what options you have into what they're going to be doing. So they were studying and pulling krill from the water and taking notes, and the guests got to participate in that project. So it was actually really kind of fun. Landings and ice cruising are two terms you'll hear us talk about quite a bit. When you're going on landings, because you're in the most remote place and it's IATO guidelines, we don't have typical excursions. There's no bus to pull up and grab us and take us somewhere because it's not allowed. You can't operate those on the Antarctica. So landings will be where the expedition team is going to pull up to a place where we find that we think it would be a good landing site, and you'll get to have that experience. So when you're looking at the top of your screen, that's ice cruising through all of the different glaciers and all of the different icebergs and different things to see. And on the bottom is one example of landing in a penguin colony. As you can see how close the penguins will come up to you while you're walking. And when I was talking a little bit about how the snow starts to recede, this would be kind of in a December, January timeframe where it's starting to recede. But as you can see from the penguins, where those brown areas and pink areas are from all the krill that they're eating, That is the penguins, and underneath them would be some of the things they leave on the continent that we cannot do. So you do know that you just have to make sure that you're, watching where you walk. Our landing gear is custom built for this purpose. So they are the Zodiacs are custom built to be landing and going on shore. When you ask how comfortable you'll be getting in and out of a Zodiac and what it's like to actually physically come out, and can I physically do it or is it too much for me? As you can see, our landing expedition launches are water level. So you will come down inside the ship, and if you are able to step in and out of a bathtub comfortably, you'll be able to step in and out of the Zodiac. We will always have our expedition team members, and our drivers and our operators will be there to help you with your sailor's grip to pull you on and off that Zodiac. But as you can see from the bottom left, it really is quite close to water level, so you don't have to physically climb. Here's a shot from one of the Zodiacs while the other two were coming in and getting loaded and unloaded for guests. So this is very similar to how you would be getting on and off the Zodiac while you were there. We have three kinds of landings. There's a dry landing where you're going to pull up to where there is a place to pull up and have dry walk out like a dock. These are usually when you are coming to a place like this, which is a research science center. So if you're pulling up to one of the research centers and you're going to be studying with the research guides and talking about what it's like to be there, along with the penguins who are also at the research center, as you can see, they still come. That's a dry landing. You won't get wet. You'll just climb right out of the Zodiac right onto the, onto the deck. A wet landing is, if you can see everybody in yellow, those are your expedition team members. They are going to pull the boat up to where you're going to be able to walk off. But when you climb out, you're going to have your muck boots and you're going to climb out into a wet area where you can see that you might get a little bit wet, but you'll be able to get onto dry land very easily. And then we have what we call a polar landing. Here is where the expedition team will go out ahead of time and they will dig the stairs for you to climb in and out and come up and down on the snow. So in those days, you'll see the expedition team go out in their boats ahead of time. They will pull up, they will climb themselves over the mound and they will dig it out for all of you. So they may be gone for an hour digging out this section and then they come back. It's quite cute because the penguins are quite curious as to what we're doing and they watch us. And they've actually been known to have a few instances where the last boat leaves and we see the penguins using the stairs to get up and down to let themselves on the island. So it's quite nice that they're very inquisitive and they can see and say, hey, that looks much easier than this section. And sometimes they'll go ahead and use them as well. We do landings in groups, so you would be assigned a group. So you might be a petrel, a penguin, an albatross, a seal. Some of them do colors, some of them do, all different things each time you go. And they will give you your time to land. So if you're at 16:30, that means you're going down and you're getting ready. The next group will be going down 45 minutes later because it takes about 45 minutes to get through all the stuff we talked about in the beginning, and then you get to go. You will also be briefed on everything you need to do and all your instructions. And in addition to that, children are able to land over 5. Antarctica is the only place that we have an age restriction of 5 and up, only because we don't have sitting services on our ships, and anyone under the age of 5 can't land on Antarctica. So that means that we have to require 5 and up on the trip, or else you would have nowhere to put them while you were gone. So it does, help for that sense. Prior to doing the landing and prior to you getting off, the expedition team will go ahead and bring emergency gear and survival gear for everybody on the ship. There is enough food supply in case we got stranded for up to 2 days. It is not food supply like lovely, interesting stuff. It's that powdered stuff so you don't die of starvation, but it is not pleasant. But it is there for you. We've never had anyone get stranded longer than 4 hours, and it was one group of kayakers because the ice can come in very quickly, but as quickly as it can come in, it will go out as well. So the kayakers were more than happy to stay over there for an extra couple of hours because they were kayaking. So they probably didn't even realize they were not, they were stranded. But there always is a possibility, and safety comes first. So they will make sure all that gear is brought out, and the penguins will come over to see what it is and they'll sniff it out to make sure it's safe. Ice cruising, again, will be different opportunities on different days, and it will also have different scenery depending on what time you're going. So during the super daylight, it might be showing and glistening brighter. And on some of the days where it's dusk and we're having close to a sundown, it may be glowing purple in different colors. So the same iceberg can change depending on what your time you're looking at it. But ice cruising is something that you definitely want to do. And you can get some visitors while you're ice cruising. So as you can see, you'll have whales that can come up. The penguins will follow the zodiac. So you will get the marine wildlife sightings in addition to the absolutely beautiful scenery. This is another iceberg scenery, as you can see. When you pull up to these, you can't imagine how small you are compared to this unbelievable scenery. So when you're looking at it from far away, it looks like a beautiful shot. Oh, look, it's an iceberg. But when you're there, it is an unbelievable difference to see. And it's just the pictures do it no justice. But as you can see, there are different types of icebergs. Some of them have flat tops. Some of them are different spike levels. And the expedition team will explain to you exactly what kind of iceberg you're looking at and what you're able to see. With the expedition options that you have, there are some additional optional things that are not included in your trip because not everybody is going to be doing them. One of the things included in your trip that you choose to do it is the polar plunge. You can swim in Antarctica and get a certificate that says you did. So this is my coworker, Kristen, who is much braver than me. And she went in the polar plunge, came out and had a ceremony when she crossed the Antarctic Circle where she was dumped with freezing cold ice water. And then she was given certificates for both of those. So I always like to steal this to show everyone, yes, you can go in that cold water and you come out and dry out and you've had that experience. And a lot of people will do that. And if you do, please let us know how it was and the experience it was, because it's just, and make sure somebody's recording you with a cell phone or something, because it's a once in a lifetime chance. You also have the opportunity to go the furthest south and cross the Antarctic Circle. This is a picture from, I don't know if you've ever seen Cruise Mapper. It's a really cool app, but it'll show you where all the cruise ships are around the world. And here, where's us? So here's the Roald Amundsen on the bottom left, and those were all the other cruise operators further north, and we were all the way down below the Antarctic Circle. And to the left of you, just to give you an example, this is what it looks like when you get to the end of the Earth where you just can't break the ice and go any farther. And the picture shows it's difficult to see. This was reversing back from when we went all the way forward. So that's all of the ice that you're sitting in, and it's just unbelievably beautiful. With the hybrid powered ship, you're able to shut the engines off and run on battery power. So imagine this scene totally silent as you're pulling away and all you hear is the ice cracking, and it's so quiet there you can hear the earth moving. It's an unbelievable experience to have. For your optional excursions, you can choose to do, as I talked about in the beginning of the season, you have your snowshoeing. And when I tell you they check to make sure the snow is packed and you're safe, if you look from the outside of how much packed snow they're on, it's quite a big experience. So you can snowshoe through. You also have the option to go kayaking through Antarctica. And of course, you have the option of overnight camping. Now, the overnight camping is not overnight glamping by any means, shape, or form. It's camping. It's done in pairs. So there's two of you. If you are single doing it because your spouse or your traveling partner said no way, but you still want to go, they'll pair you up with one of the expedition leaders so they know you're safe. They provide all of the gear for you. So they will provide you with the sleeping tents and the sleeping bags and the extra equipment to make sure that you stay warm all night. The ship will pull away. So outside that little alcove, you'll see where they will pull away and you will be there on your own in the middle of nowhere overnight. And let me tell you about laying there. You can literally hear the ground moving because there's no other sound. Unless, of course, you're lucky and you get some penguins waddling through. Sometimes that will happen and you will hear sound. Now, what I did tell you about earlier is true. You cannot leave any outside anything on the continent that you did not bring. So if you have a larger dinner, you will be packing it up with you and taking it back to the ship should anything happen there. So just make sure you're aware of all the guidelines and everything so that you know for sure this is for you. But if it is, it's an unbelievable experience to know that you slept on the Antarctic continent overnight. So They do operate, it's usually about 25 people at once, and they will try to do it once, twice per season. And it is, it will depend on how many people are signing up for it. So if they have a full house, then you're good. If it's less, it might only be 20, 10 of you or 12 of you. So they will always have that option. But I know that I kind of thrown a lot in on you in a very short time, but if you have any questions, it's always easy to do. So I am going to turn it back over to Christy for a few minutes.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Oh my gosh. So I do want to encourage you guys to ask questions. You can use the chat box, or if you're brave enough to show your faces and raise a hand, we'll unmute you here on the screen. It is amazing, this experience you've described. I mean, I think it really appeals to the part of me that is so concerned about our environment, right? Because it's such a pristine
and
place.
I think it's a life-changing event because you're able to come home and really truly understand what that means. You're really truly able to understand the nature portion of it, how you're in this remote place. And I think for most of us, having maybe not traveled in a little bit of a time frame, it's, you wake up and you say, okay, we're going to do something meaningful this time because we haven't been away in a year, and we want to be away from the crowds, and we want to be back with nature, and we want to know how this experience will play out. And if you're here with us, between 200 and 500 passengers, you're with a smaller group. We are working on COVID protocols every single day. So we will make sure that everything is safe. And it's, of course, I'm biased in the travel industry. I'm hoping that the vaccines are our ticket and we're able to get out and fly, because I'm just as antsy as everybody to be back on our ships. In the 3 years I was here, 2 of those years I sailed 6 times with us. So it's a little culture shock for me not to be on board. But it's, they are making sure, and those protocols will be updated and changed repeatedly up until sailing. So when you're ready to book, Christy's going to go through all of the different things that we're doing, all of the different things that she's got going on, any of your book with confidence, speak for when you're ready to go. So she'll be able to give you every last detail when you're ready. And she's got me a phone call away. I can always jump on with you guys as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's such a remarkable experience. There's really, truly nothing like it.
There's no other place on earth left.
There's nothing else like it. You said at the very, very beginning, if you've been everywhere, you haven't been here. And it's true. I know quite a few people who have made it a life's goal, right? To be everywhere, to check off every continent. And this one can be a little elusive. And some of that is because your expectations may be skewed, right? You may think, oh, well, I couldn't possibly. But you know what? You can possibly. You proved that tonight.
You can, and you're in comfortable accommodations. You are with good people. Like I said, you have good food, good people, good accommodations. What else can we ask? And scenery like that.
I know, this is hardly roughing it. And maybe if you didn't do the camp out that night, that would be roughing it, especially the part about having to take everything with you, leave nothing behind, wink, wink, if you get what we mean. But that is a really amazing thing. And it kind of speaks to that whole, what motivates us to travel, right? We all have different things that motivate us, that get us itching to travel, not just to get out of these 4 walls that we've all been trapped in for so long. But it's what excites us. Is it the idea of doing something that's so outrageous? Is it checking something off the bucket list? Is it having these amazing experiences in nature? Is it learning all this stuff? There's so much in this experience about learning about the natural environment, the history of, the excavations, the travel that has been done by scientists to Antarctica. There's so much to learn. And one thing you didn't even talk about, which I didn't expect you to, was how the trips start in South America.
Yes.
And end. So there's another whole aspect to the trip where you're going to start in Chile, right? And start there. And
if you haven't done South America, that knocks off 2 continents in one. 2. Yes, it's 2 for 1 deal.
It is. And one of the things that I do for my clients all the time is, help make that trip so customized for you. And that's one of the things that I put up on the screen here about the wonderful reasons to work with a travel agent. Not only is it that you were working with an expert and they're going to make it personalized for you, it's really going to be tailored to your interests, work with you about really selecting the right departure date that aligns with the things that interest you. You know, Kelly talked at the beginning about, even though the season to travel to Antarctica is truncated, within it, there's these different slices that really hit, you know, if you're a penguin enthusiast, boy, and you really want to see them all doing their thing, the beginning of the season, then that's the time to go. If you really want to see the cute guys trying to molt their way out of their fuzzy fur into there's all these different things, the whales, the sea lions and such. I mean, there's so many little details to make a wise decision. Don't make those decisions alone. That's what you work with a travel agent for. And of course, my objective is to make sure that you get all of it, right? And I want you to have the biggest value for your vacation dollar. You want to spend a few extra days in South America before your cruise starts or after it ends? I'll work on that. Of course, take care of your flights and all the other bits and pieces so that you don't have to worry about a thing. I'm also your personal agent, so that once we start having a conversation, you don't ever get a call center. You get me. And you can email me, you can call me. I'm here for you. So it's a full service, personalized experience. And because we've all seen what last year has brought, especially with travel, if you had plans last year or up until now this year, and you know things have changed so radically, it's been my great pleasure to work through all those policies and procedures on behalf of my clients to make sure they're getting everything back to them, and also they're booking wisely for the future. I'm staying on top of all those book with confidence policies. There's a lot of flexibility right now in bookings. It's a real buyer's market. It's kind of like a trifecta of wonderfulness that's happening for travel to be purchased now, even if you don't plan on traveling for another 6 months or a year, because availability is good, prices are good. And like I said, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes time to make your deposits up until the point where final payment is due. Some cruise lines are even offering flexibility up until just a month before your departure date. So working with an agent really helps you navigate all those waters so you make the best possible decisions about your vacation. I loved all your penguin pictures. I love your little stuffed penguins behind you, Kelly. I couldn't resist myself. I have penguins in my slides as well. Even though I'm kind of sea lion kind of junkie, and I love whales. Not quite so many pictures of those tonight. We kind of went with the penguin theme. One thing I do want to present to you, besides my cat, who always makes an appearance during my events, is that if you are interested in making a booking, I'm offering tonight a little incentive. If you book a qualifying Hurtigruten cruise by the end of this April for any time this year or next year, you can receive up to a $250 discount from my agency. And I'd be only too happy to explain all of that to you when you're ready to talk to me. So of course, how do you get a hold of me? You can always reach out to me by phone or email. By all means, check us out on social media. We're kind of everywhere. So pick your favorite social channel and follow us. By all means, also go to escapeartistholidays.com. There is a ton of stuff up there that you can look at and get inspired. But I want to point out this graphic: enter to win a $5,000 vacation giveaway. This is for use on any vacation, including a Hurtigruten cruise. So you can go to the beach, you can go to Antarctica, wherever you want, but you have to be in it to win it. And you can do that right on my website. If you are interested in checking out this presentation, which will be posted on Monday, or any of our previous ones, or see what's coming up, you can check out this link here, bit.ly, We Will Travel Again events. We had Antarctica this week. We had Japan last week. We're doing Australia next week. I've got England and Tahiti, all sorts of things coming up. We've done different USA trips and Europe. We've got all sorts of stuff on our library. So I hope you take advantage of it. I do want to give everybody another chance to ask questions. The crowd has been terribly quiet tonight. Probably a little overwhelmed, maybe doing the math on when they can get away. So if you do have any questions, by all means, pop it in the chat box. Kelly, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think I covered a lot. I know I gave a lot of information in that session, so it might take a few days to mull over, but if you have questions and you can get a hold of Christy. You know, one of the things that's really great about working with your agent is that they do have access to us all the time. So again, they also have access even when there's any kind of question, if there's a specialty request or an issue, she can go directly to me and I can go directly to the ships, or I can go directly to, our team in other countries and get the proper answers if we don't know them. So if you don't have a question right now and you do think of one later, just shoot it over to her, and no question is too big or too small or too strange to hear. I've heard them all. So just make sure.
That's a really good point. I mean, honestly, we don't know what to ask. That doesn't surprise me, truly, because this is such a unique experience. I had the pleasure of going on board the smallest ship, the Fram, when it was in New York Harbor a couple of years ago. Kelly gave a wonderful tour of the ship. And one of the neatest things I thought about it wasn't so much kind of the stuff that you expect to see on the cruise ship. It was all the stuff you don't expect to see on the cruise ship. And that really was the bottom deck of the ship, where all the equipment is to do the landings, the kayaks, the gear. There's none of that stuff exists on any other kind of cruise. This is what makes it's so realistic. I keep tripping on this word. Not exhibition, that's a different story. Expedition, because it is so genuinely different. To be able to do these things and go out, not just on kayaks, but the Zodiacs, and have all those great science people, scientists on board, and the astronomy stuff, so many great lectures. It was really fascinating. I know that it opened my eyes and made me sketch it on the list. We always talk about that. Bucket lists are easy to build.
Yes. And they get longer and longer every presentation.
They do, Kelly. They get longer all the time.
Yes, indeed.
Well, if nobody has any questions, I am going to close out tonight by saying thank you again for everyone being here. Kelly, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you all for coming to listen.
I hope you all stay well, be safe, be healthy, and I hope you'll join us again sometime. Have a great night.